Hello, everyone. It has been a minute since we've been in Tribeca together, so what better way to celebrate than to start the day at the Odeon, an iconic New York establishment. Our first exhibit we're going to see today is at Ortuzar Projects, which is now in a new space just right next door to their old space. And honestly, it basically looks the same inside. Still beautiful, still very spacious. This is an exhibit by the American artist Suzanne Jackson. And also, PSA, if you live in San Francisco or close to it, Jackson will have her first major retrospective at SF MoMA in 2025. So keep an eye out for that next year. The show is titled Light and Paper, and it highlights her traditional and non-traditional uses of paper in her practice over the past 4 decades. And you can see the evolution of how she's worked with paper in various ways over time in the works featured in this show. So, for example, her drawings from the 1980s feature more traditional subject matter like landscapes, and then these sculptural abstractions that were created more recently use paper in addition to, quote, materials from her garden, some textiles from her work as a costume and set designer, and found organic matter. Throughout Jackson's life, her practice has been heavily influenced by where she was living at the time. So, for example, she spent the early days of her life in Fairbanks, Alaska, and her paintings captured the, quote, local plant life and landscape. When she lived in LA with access to these large industrial-sized studio spaces, she created more expansive artworks. And when she moved to a small town 2 hours outside of LA, where she had access to less space, she created smaller format drawings and paintings on paper. So she finally settled in Savannah, Georgia in 1996. This is where she still lives and works to this day. And it was here that she finally began creating these more organic, abstract forms, really freeing herself from the constraints of a traditional canvas. And these works of hers are my personal favorites. Our next stop is going to be Grimm Gallery to see an exhibit of paintings by Anthony Cudahy. So Cudahy's works explore themes of queer identity and intimacy. The scenes are inspired by Cudahy's photo archive, art history, film stills, and hagiographic icons. I think he captures a really unique mix of feelings that are often contrasting in his works, such as sensuality, safety, and loneliness. And I think he's able to do this through his color palette as well as the textures that he uses. It gives his works this sort of tinge of nostalgia. We're now going to pop over to Nino Mier Gallery's Tribeca space. They have another space in Soho, which is also on the docket for today, but this is an exhibit by the London-based artist Lucienne O'Mara, which, as you can see, features a series of abstract oil paintings that explore the, quote, dynamic tension between structure and spontaneity. You can see this in the contrast between the rigid grid system, which acts as a visual foundation for each of the works. And on top of this, she layers these thick brushstrokes of oil paint in this rich color palette. So the goal of this intense juxtaposition of geometric and organic is meant to, quote, challenge the viewer to reconsider how stability and transformation coexist in the world around us. We're now going to head just down the street to P.P.O.W. Gallery, and we're actually heading up to the second floor gallery space, which I've actually never seen before, despite it being here for a few years now. And this is an exhibit by one of my favorite P.P.O.W. artists, Robin F. Williams. So this show features a variety of large-scale paintings of female protagonists that are rich with references to film and art history. And my favorite part of each of these works are how Williams highlights the complexity of each of the characters. This is a gift not often afforded to women portrayed in various roles within media or works of art. And the gallery states that, quote, each of the female protagonists within Williams' paintings resist the confines of their prescribed role, obscuring the line between villain, victim, and savior. This room features a new series of gouaches on paper that are, quote, based on individual stills from the movies like When Harry Met Sally, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Suspiria, Carrie, and more. So each work depicts women in critical moments of vulnerability, revelation, transformation, or catharsis. This work is titled Out the Window, and it references the sculptor Carl Andre's infamous words, "She went out the window," from his 911 call following the suspicious death of his wife and fellow artist Anna Mendieta in the 1980s. We're now going to head over to James Cohan Gallery's 52 Walker Space to see a group show titled The Superfluity of Things. This is a show that, quote, celebrates the enduring vitality of the still life tradition for contemporary artists. So the show features still lives from 22 contemporary artists who are of varying age and have varying styles. So as with all group shows, I will leave the names of each artist below each of their works. We're now going to head a few blocks over to Canada Gallery to see an exhibit of works by an artist I had the privilege of discovering earlier this year at Frieze, New York. This is a show by Hasani Sahlehe, who is known for creating these vibrant acrylic gel on canvas works that are a clear reference to color field painting, which is a style of abstract painting that emerged in the 1940s and 1950s as a part of the broader abstract expressionist movement. And it's characterized by these large expanses of color applied in solid, flat areas, often with minimal detail or obvious brushstrokes, where the emphasis is on color itself as the subject. The show is titled Song Ideas, and each of the works are formatted vertically, where these, quote, solid bars of bold acrylic color are poured onto face-up canvases. I personally love the contrast between these strong geometric shapes and the messiness of the materials. So, as you'll see in some of these shots, you can see the little drips on the side of the canvas, as well as the bubbles from the acrylic mixture. We're going to end this beautiful day in Soho at Nino Mier Gallery's Soho space, which features an exhibit that makes me so excited for fall and the changing seasons. This is a show titled Bird Tales by the Belgian artist Pieter, and it explores the, quote, vibrancy, the beauty, and the carnage of autumn. The paintings, works on paper, and functional sculptures that you see here highlight the abundance and splendor that autumn brings before winter comes and life becomes dormant. So I love how his works capture each part of the ecosystem, from the plants and animals to even the people. And the gallery describes the works as almost being doll-like with a hint of surrealism. And I completely agree. You really do get sucked into this world that he has created. The sculptures that are in the center of the room are functional, so they're meant to be sat on so that the viewer can have an experience adjacent to sitting in a clearing in the forest where they can just really take in all of the works and quote unquote nature around them. And that is all for this video. I hope you enjoyed it and stay tuned for my next video. We will be visiting the Upper East Side and we're going to see some really great shows that you do not want to miss. So make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss that, and I'll see y'all later.